And I think you're all aware of the project, the Heritage Project, which has gone quite well to get all the journals online and to get our website in a more modern version, let's say. And thanks to Paul Burks, he's done a lot of work there. Now I've got to give it, I'm reading this out because it's a statement where we found ourselves at. Chris and I and Richard and Paul went through a few things. First of all, the council, after much discussion, eventually decided it would be best to leave the pocket book as it is, without attempting to exactly reproduce or update, and place it digitally on our website in a kind of library. To support this, we discussed having extra material that is perhaps more up to date, and even older material that is considered valuable for younger and older technicians, like myself, to read. Examples would include classic papers printed in our journal, reproduced and filed in the corner of this library, selected by our own academics within our society. This decided, we then embarked on a programme to add material to this library concept, and Paul Evans and Richard Daniels volunteered the notes that they have accumulated after years of lecturing and their experience. Later, Christine and I found or discovered that Paul and Richard had already spent a great deal of their free time preparing technical material for this project, and had even started producing presentations before Council initiated the project in its current guise, in fact by some years. This was very puzzling and led to some confusing misunderstandings until all was revealed when it was explained that Amanda Mitchell, previous president, you all know, had already initiated this project during her time as president. Unfortunately, the present-day council actually didn't know about this progress. And also, very sadly, Paul and Richard were also unaware that they were working entirely on their own. Now, just to recap, Amanda was very ill, obviously, and she had privately spoken with Christine and myself at later stages that she was having a great deal of problems with her memory. And I think that's part of where this came from. So our society must give credit and really thank Paul and Richard for their dedication and of course for the valuable time they've invested to date, which is a great deal of time, and apologise that council minutes have not accurately reflected or recorded details of this project. And to that I must say to the present council and incoming council members that they must be aware that the minutes are very important, and to make sure that the detailed things that are being discussed in summary form, obviously. We now think it is important that we explain the vision of the project and demonstrate what we hope to achieve. So we now have a structure which Richard will begin to explain to you. It's a tree-like library shelf system, which is the way I see it, or can explain it, where we can add additional material that comes available to the society. Richard has created an introduction which is intended to be a real launching platform to leather technology and the leather industry for non-technologists as well as technologists who may hopefully surf and find us. We do intend to make this a subscription library for limited time access, or simply membership of SLTC with a small surcharge for library access. And this concept is not yet fully decided and depends on what our IT manager, Paul Burks, can suggest or arrange for us. Your ideas, suggestions, papers, publications, notes, experience could be included in this library and this project. Volunteers to assist will be most welcome, because this is potentially a very large project. It's not a project with an end, as libraries shouldn't be, which is why we've nicknamed it Heritage 2 Project. very fortunately, the society has benefited from a marvellous contribution from the estate of our late member, Raymond Blakely. So we have funding available, significant funding available, which the Council have set aside specifically for this project. So in summary, the project about the pocketbook is to put it in a library and put a library back in your pockets. So I'll ask Richard now to come and explain. Christine, have you got anything to add there?
Yes,
Have I missed anything?
after Richard.
Oh, okay.
Richard's going to give the introduction to it, and then I'm going to show you possibly how it could look in a different format as we go into different modules.
Right.
But let Richard do this first. And
Thank
then
you. Super. Yes.
Okay, well, thanks very much for that. I've come totally unprepared as regards what precisely to say, because I didn't know what was going to be said before I came on. So I've just got a few notes. But essentially, we've got a structure.
It's in the pack. So you've got this
Yeah, there is a
within your packs.
Yeah, there is a pack. This is a structure, just to show you for a start that something exists. And there's 3 points in it. The first is the introduction at the top. And, the introduction at the top. And then we've got this peacemaking letter, which is a sort of backbone. And then there's pieces which can be tacked on, which is additional information. But there's 3 parts, so I'll just go through it step by step. First of all, we have the introduction document, which is intended for people who basically know nothing about the industry, and we're looking for feedback, whether this is going the right way or not. Treat it as an advanced draft. It's we use icons. These are going to be redrawn, going to be replaced. Some images will be replaced, and let's say it's probably not world perfect, but it should serve the purpose. And we'll look at this in greater depth. If we look at the second part, the long part in the middle, making leather, well, what's it all about? First of all, it provides its overview, but it's going to be for all different types of leathers. And it's a starting point, the key is it's for the development of technologists. And I'll just make a comment here, because it's one of the reasons why I've taken this on. I've been in a lot of tanneries, many tanneries over the last 10 years, doing reports and talking to people right from the top down to the bottom. And I ask the same question all the time to the chief executive: can I talk to anybody in there? Can I talk to technicians and all this? And it was summed up. One of the last tanneries I went into, the chief executive said, yeah, you can talk to the technicians. He said, quite honestly, he said, they really don't understand what they're doing. And these words are hard words, but they're coming from a lot of different directions, from a lot of different sources. It's not just one throwaway comment. It summarises how people in manufacture are feeling. And we need to address this. So, what we're trying to look for information for counterparts, people who act as senior positions, such as the managers, engineers, the chemists, the environmentalists, who are doing key work at the top near to the top of the pole, making the big decisions. Really, they should be leather technologists there. The leather technologist step that is above the technician, who will control the process properly, correctly, make sure everything's running properly. Not at the highest level, not research, not science, but the person who can pull a piece of information from here and another bit and put them together to create something different with this broad understanding. They understand how to amend and alter a production line. And these are the people which hopefully this is aimed for. And this is what has sort of driven me. If we move on to the next part, we have these objectives. The first is this overview of making different types of lead, and there's an assist for counterparts who want to move more towards technologists or just want to understand how the product works. It's also a structure for what we call bolt-on content, and so we've got the main core of content, and we're going to put in additional material. So we have this structure of making leather, which is going to go much more into leather making than the broad introduction, and onto that we put this sort of material. And if we just look down, it's only for guidance. We've got sources of additional information, such as from the journals. We're hoping we're going to get gifted material. That is stuff that's been published, not necessarily in our own journal, but is that right? So maybe there's stuff there is stuff from other journals that's been published. Good stuff. Some of it might be 25, 30 years old, but fundamentally it's correct and it ain't going to change. It's all to bring a technologist as close to the leather making experience as possible. I think there's so really what we're looking to build up it's a sort of, we're talking about a compendium of experience really, but backed up with meaningful technical or scientific rationale. It's not just something what somebody thinks, it's something that works and often found out the hard way. But then the reasons for this experience, it can be set down so it's making sense. It's not just information or science or supposition, it's got to be about meaningful knowledge, and hopefully we can get it with this sort of structure, but it will take a long time. I'd like to move on. Well, we're looking for comments, good, bad or indifferent, but we want to know it's going the right way. So we're going to leather, an introduction, and we've tried to look at a different way of approaching this subject of the introduction to leather manufacture, because we've all had the usual sort of thing. You have leather, you start off with hide and all the rest, but I've tried to come in a different way. Whether it's successful or not, you have to judge. There's about 70 slides. The study's built into 5 sections. Basically, what's leather, look at a little on natural resources, sustainability, how it's made, and aesthetic values. You all know the subject, so we can flick through it quite rapidly. I'll just make a few comments, perhaps, as we go through. So this is where we start, and lots of everyday uses. And we've got a lot of properties. And for example, this is a lovely one. This is a cannon made out of raw hides and skins. Fantastic. It was used in Indonesia in the 1800s. You had this tube, you stuffed gunpowder down it, you rammed down nuts and bolts and nails, aimed it at someone and lit it, and made sure you're nowhere near it. But, you know, it's fantastic material. Skin is dried skin, it's shatterproof. Very strong, very shatterproof. So that surprised me. It's water resistant, we know that. There's a sensitivity to it. Resistance to tearing and abrasion. It's got flexibility across a high temperature range. They used to use leather coverings on Concorde for the nose, where it's raised and lowered, because the temperatures went down to -50 centigrade, and it was a material which would stand up to these conditions. And at the other extreme, where we've got quite aggressive situations. I mean, there's moderate resistance to, well, very good short-term resistance to acids and alkalis, to water, to heat. So there's a lot of protection. I put this one in because I like the photograph. I took a photograph. I took it on one of the last flights, which actually went near Everest, because they lost a plane and then they decided they shouldn't be doing this sort of thing because of the environment. But I thought it was a pretty fair photograph. I also made the leather for the footwear that went up to the top of that with Chris Bonington in the 1980s. That came from our old factory. We also made the leather for the shirtless footwear as well. So, but you may say, we think that's a load of rubbish, you should take it out. But you're free to do that. Lasts a long time. So that's what it is. It's a natural material. It's got good physical properties. Not probably the best in any one specific field, but it's got a very good broad range. Lots of alternative fabrics around, but their properties may be limited. Resources, okay, we've got these different animals, but I focus purely on the animals which are for meat. I've left it at that. They're grown for a purpose, they're not grown for the skin. And to be absolutely precise, I know marketing, if you're selling a top quality article in leather, you want to dissociate yourself really from this rotten putrid material which you've got if it's left alone, but it's a fact of life. We're taking a pretty rotten material and we're turning it into something of high value which can be cherished. So we should state where our roots are. Usual sort of things, what do we do with all these hides and skins if we don't use them properly? Well, if we've got 7 or 8 kilometres, we can fill it to a depth of about 1 metre with raw hides and skins and just let them rot. So we're really doing a good purpose. And also, of course, it's got this fabulous fibre structure. We can turn it into gelatin, or do what we want with it. But there's this structure. And I think it's about the only natural material that's got a structure which you can use without having to weave. Preserve it. Got the A to Z of preservation here. That's Dr. Anna Lama's hand there. And the skins are in Zimbabwe. So we've got A to Z, everything you need to know about preserving hides and skins there. Yeah, I think we've said that. Sustainability. Well, you know, we've only got one place to go. We're not going anywhere. And I suspect in 10 generations' time, nobody's going anywhere. Few people might be sitting on Mars, but most people will be stuck here with very, very limited resources and resenting us for what we have. So we need to think ahead, not just one generation or two, but think 10 generations down the line. That's my belief anyway. This is important because whatever we do, we consume. Really, we don't do much at all. We take raw materials from the ground or from nature, we turn them into something else, and then we throw it away. So we're like a tube where you throw resources in one end and produce rubbish at the other. And, you know, there's so many billion of us. It makes you wonder how long it can go. But everything we do, everything we touch, everything we eat consumes. We're consumers. We take energy, we take materials, we throw it away. So we do that when we make leather, but everything else follows the same route. But we have to get a better profile. Picked up 4 responsibilities. Water. A lot of funny statements made about water. Even quite recently, you get 150 metres cubed of water to process a tonne of leather. It still is there in literature. How incredibly wasteful leather is. We've all seen all this sort of stuff. But it's basically it's what you can do with it. Actually, you can get the use way down, and ultimately, you needn't produce it. Virtually no waste at all, because you know, in India, for the last 10 years, they've been evaporating all the effluent to dryness after treatment and recycling 95% of the water back to the tanneries in a big ring mine. There's no reason why it shouldn't be done. There's no problem with liquid effluent, none whatsoever. It can be solved, it just needs money and effort and the will to do it. Shouldn't be an effluent problem, not a liquid effluent problem. Residual solids, well, you can do all sorts of stuff. Actually, we don't actually create that much waste. I mean, we can turn shavings into all sorts of things. Hair can turn into different products. you think about it, we do an awful lot with solid wastes. Energy. Put two extremes in. One is in the USA. There's a whole tannery there. It just runs on rubbish, municipal rubbish. It's just burned. Not a particularly nice picture. I wondered whether to put one of wood burning units in, because a lot of wood burning taking place around the world to provide energy as opposed to using oil. We're using lots of stuff. The tannery, the picture at the bottom here, that's in China. That tannery, it's producing enough. It's 50,000 square metres surface area. They're running the whole tannery on it, and there's an excess which is going back into the grid. Just interesting. Corporate social responsibilities. Beautiful statement up the top there. I mean, that's on a notice board in a tannery. Corruption equals stealing from the poor. You know, it's... If you can say that in the workplace, then, you know, it shouldn't be a bad structure, should it? Making leather. Bit about what holds and skins are. Pictures for people who've never seen anything or thought about it. And I've cut the manufacture down into these steps. Removal of unwanted materials, introducing new materials, reforming the structure. And I say, well, that covers everything. Really, if we go a little deeper into this, then I go into this format where we use images or photographs or images, a little bit of text over the top of the images as captions, and then a little bit of descriptive text on the side. Well, we all know this stuff, don't we? You know, we're taking stuff out here. Got icons. We've got to change the icons. Can do better. Move on into tannage. Okay, we've got chrome tannage here, but you know, most are widely used. I had a bit of criticism because talked about vegetable tannage and wet white as well. And some of the queries have come back from people who are not familiar with the industry. What's the difference between using these different tannages? Why is one better than another? So there's a little bit of there's a gap to fill here. Salmon, quite straightforward. All the pictures from all around the world, they're not just European, they're across a wide spread of tanners all around the world. I particularly like that one because the salmon operation, it used to be such a hard operation. It was only big manual men could do this sort of work. Now ladies can do it because you have the equipment there. That's in Vietnam. Shaving, what it does. Dyeing, make any colour you want. Produce special effects, lots of materials there. Onto sand setting. Drying, basically, different types. When you're restructuring, when you're recreating a structure, instead of leather, we've got to get it from a round shape into a flat form, which is the shape we normally use, obviously. But the tension and the moisture content and the relative humidity, they all form part of making very, very, very specific properties. In a way, we make our wet work is almost aimed at what drying facilities we have. You can't change your drying facilities very much. So I went to two extremes, sort of drying under tension and letting it relax. And then after discussions, I popped in vacuum drying. I nearly missed it out because I just wanted the two extremes of conditions, tension-free drying and drying under tension. But we've got vacuum drying, not a very good dark photograph down the bottom there. I don't know why, I took it, I think it's been reproduced so many times. I'll have to try and find the original somewhere. Staking, what that does. Milling, softening, what that does. And then on to finishing. And there's a great shortage of work done, or material on finishing, how finishing actually works. I mean, I've got probably about 8 slides here, but there's no textbooks on finishing. I mean, we've got Tony Covington's work, there's Heidemann, there's books on engineering, such as by Walter Landman, and of course the Sharp House, which, although in some ways A lot of it is outdated, but fundamentally a lot of it is correct. I don't know anything on finishing. I don't think there's anything you can pull out that actually talks about in depth. But Paul Evans is an expert, and he can offer an awful amount here. Again, same sort of icons in finishing. How the machinery works, or at least sort of an overview of it. Drying operations, so traditional drying and called radiant drying, which is moving very rapidly to the fore. The ram press and the roller press, and they all create these very specific effects. And they're the major steps, and so we turn this rounded hide. Another photograph's going to be reworked because I want to take the buckets out, which are supporting the curves on all the end bits and pieces. But we're going from this irregular solid waste from another industry to fat, versatile, durable and sustainable material. Is the character of leather. And we're really talking about difference between good processing and bad processing. And all these images were provided by Amanda quite some time ago. But she created, she sourced these and she created a lot of these for this this specific use. Lovely photograph of leather being bent, how the grain compresses and the flesh expands. Again, this is special thanks to Amanda. She thought long and hard about this, but with the belt sections and some Tipex, you can see here that the grain's contracting on bending, and the flesh is expanding, and you keep a nice break as opposed to doing something like a piece of cardboard. We'll move on from bovine, we'll look at the structures of calf skins compared to a mature animal, so at least you can visually see the sort of differences. Calf skins to pig skins. One of the reasons we don't use pig skins is because of the very pronounced grain structure and also the peculiar section which we get. Goat skins, domestic sheep, you've seen it all. And that about summarises it. So there's the introduction. Quite a lot of acknowledgements. Most of these people, most of these tanners, I mean, they've been very open to saying, yeah, the material can be used, but the photographs can be used, but not for this specific purpose. But I don't think that's too much of a problem. There are certain areas we've got to tidy up, some areas of copyright, and that's it. So I think, yeah, we're back to comments. What are your comments? Did that take too long?
No,
Oh, that's all right.
thank you very much.
Can I just add to that?
Yeah, you come through and,
Okay, I'm just going to take just another 5 minutes to add on, because Richard's obviously given you a sort of an overview of how we see an introductory type of module that could be made freely available for anybody to use, just to get a picture of leather. And I think it's it's given a very broad approach there. As he said, there are things here. We're very conscious nowadays of the whole thing of copyright and making sure that we have permission to use anything we use going forward and things like that. So this is sort of just taken from what we've got at the moment, but it's where do we go with it then beyond the introductory part, and how could it look? Because while this is very linear in the sense it's just a PowerPoint presentation at the moment, we're also thinking, how do we have a structure that we can build really? And I'm going to just give you an example of something. It's not leather related. It's basically Phil Housen is happened to be my nephew, and he works in education with a program called Articulate. So it's something I think that UNIDO, they introduced us to a few years ago, didn't they, when we were talking about another project with the university. But basically it's a package which is particularly used in education because it can allow you to go off in different directions and come back, and it can allow you to do things like, I mean, I know PowerPoint you can put videos in, and we saw this morning that can go terribly wrong with the sausage. So you want something that is always going to be reliable, that can be online. So So just a few things here. Oh gosh, I'll say straight away, I've just doing something stupid too. For example, you've got you've got different graphics that you can just present things in a way that maybe is a little bit more interactive, maybe for self-learning. I think what we're keen on here, this isn't going to replace what we're doing at the university. This isn't going to replace what individual training companies are doing in from one-to-one type thing. But it's going to be something we hope that is a supporting material that can be used all over the world actually, because there's lots of people. I mean, I think back to the days we had like the City and the Guild where people were able to do something at technician, somebody coming from industry who has no academic background but needs to learn about the subject. So we think there's lots of potential uses for this library for description. Let's say a few different examples of things how you can we can tailor it to look like we want. If, for example, we want to take somebody off in a certain direction and bring them back again, I think one of the things we always worry about the website-based things is people get lost in a place. So this can give us a structure where you might say, for example, finishing. Richard mentioned the thing about finishing. Okay, whoever can contribute to that, we might have a module in here that then can go off into all sorts of directions, but still bring people back, and they just access that finishing module, and it comes back to a central core. So we're not losing your way. We're not going to. That's the idea, that we can sort of. And again, behind any of these things, you can have different sections, for example. So you could have all different finishing types. You could have different machines that you could use. It could be whatever you like within that topic. Sorry, I'm just going to. So maybe myself too big, and I can't get it back down again. So just catch yourself down. I'm trying to make this look easy, and what I've done is somehow managed to make my screen. I can't get stuff back down to the screen size. Bear with me a moment. Sorry, this is how not to do a presentation. Yes, I'm there because I've come out of it now. I'm sorry, I've just come out of it. I wanted to show you, because it can do things like it could, I need to go back into my emails to get that from my link, I'm afraid. I'll sort it out at tea break and show you a little bit later on, because I want to show you, because there's things in there like you can embed in quizzes and things, so you can do like little self-assessment modules. Basically, it's a program that allows us to have lots of flexibility, and again, obviously, like everything, though, if you want to go down that road, there's a cost, and as Steve has alluded to, we have some money that has been requested to us, which we feel would be appropriate. Because if we're going to do this, we need to do it properly. It's got to look right. It's got to have. I mean, it's got to have industry input first of all. And I think what we really want to know is, first of all, are we going in the right direction? Because Richard and Paul have done a substantial amount of work to get behind the scenes. And first of all, we don't want that wasted, because it's critical that we use what has been done. But it's also what additional help can we get from people, because the pocketbook as it is outdated. We can still use it. We still get requests for it, but we want something that's much bigger, and it's like an ongoing resource that will have a benefit for the industry, and it will have a long, sustainability in that sense for future generations of leather technologists. So I think it's requiring people to just come forward and say, yeah, we're prepared to either, offer papers that you've done, that you are happy for us to publish and have the rights to publish. Nowadays we have to have permission for everything we do, or maybe that you have an interest in providing some material that can support one of the particular modules or a number of modules. So I think we're looking for people who can help continue the work that Richard and Paul have started and will continue to work on, but you can't do it in isolation. So I think that's just what we wanted to show today, is that we think it's a very important thing. I was actually just reading the pull-up banner behind us, and one of the whole causes of the Society for Leather Technology and Chemistry is the dissemination of scientific knowledge. that is one of our reasons for being, and as a charity, that's one of the things we, are targeted with doing. Equally, as a charity and as a body of, basically a body of volunteers, that also means there are some, we realise this time is precious, and so it does require lots of people contributing rather than just leaving it to one or two individuals to try and make it happen. So that's where we're at. So I apologise for that. So I'm just,
That's great, Christine.
yeah, but I'm just conscious of the time.
What we kind of, we took projects, as I mentioned, were started before we knew sort of thing as the present day council. But what we're trying to do here is put a concept together. Can you all hear me? I'm not sure.
Yeah, we apologise for this. I don't know what something went on there either.
We've tried to put together a bit of a concept and to keep it simple, and I think that's the best part of it. But what we need to know from you, perhaps this is something to go over again during the AGM, are we on the right track? Is this what we should be doing? Is this what the industry requires? Is this what the society should be doing? According to our mandate, it is. But we need a bit of support to know that we're on the right track. What we're showing now is not set in concrete. It's going to remain organic. It will adapt and change, I'm sure. Again, trying to keep simplicity at the fore and expense. But we do need to know from you here, as core representatives of the present day society, bearing in mind what we're doing is for the future, not just for ourselves, is this the right thing? Should we be doing this?
Is this instead of the pocketbook, or as well as the pocketbook, is the pocketbook going to continue? What's the target area for this presentation, which is excellent? What Richard's done is excellent, fantastic. But what's the target?
Let's just step back from that. What we're showing now is just an introduction to a library. People would surf and find us and go into that library, and that's the introduction. The pocketbook, as it is, will remain. It is digitised, in fact, and we would plan to put it on the shelf in this library.
That's a source of income.
It will be there.
Are we going to
Yes.
go to that as a source of income in the future? Or drop it, go to something like this, which is only free?
Wouldn't be dropped. That's not free.
I thought you said it's free.
No.
Can I just comment? If you look in your guidance there, you'll see there's a schematic which shows, it gives a structure of how we're seeing this. The introduction first, and then a main content with bolt-on pieces. And all this is, all I've spoken about today, this is just the introduction. Only a little bit, it's nothing, it's a giveaway.
John, you.
Yeah, thanks very much. I'm keen to get involved in this, mainly because of my sort of 40 years plus in the industry. To my mind, you learn some theory and then you go and learn how to apply it in a factory. The difference between learning the science, very small scale, and then working with tons and tons of raw material at the time is very great. So I think it's key to encourage the technicians to become technologists to understand the science. And in that, I was surprised that missing from the introduction was a sentence that says, well, leather we know is an engineered product. It comes about by the succession of integrated sub-processes. And for anybody to fully understand it, they've not got to understand just what they're doing, but they've got to think about the downstream implications, what that does to the properties, whether that makes it saleable, commercial, or effective.
Yeah, I think that's.
But anything, John. I mean, that's
So
why
I'm keen to get
that's why I
involved.
wanted to present it, because it's it's open for discussion. That's the whole point.
Hopefully, if the introduction is accepted as correct, to lead on into this sort of core technology, there's lots of pieces which will slot into it. There's a whole raft of them. It's not just technology, it's science, it's technology, it's corporate social responsibilities, it's science material, how it's used, management.
Yep.
There's
Costings,
all sorts of things can slot in and easily, hopefully, be easily referred to. But it's a lot of work.
A lot of cross-referencing to do.
Yeah, but it's a lot of work to get all these basic pieces. But a lot of it's out there. But you've got to hurry up because, you know, expertise dies off, doesn't it?
Having said that, we work in an industry that's 4,000 or 5,000 years old.
So, yeah,
Just
Ken.
the answer to that, is this a replacement for the pocketbook or not? Or are they going to run side by
I
side?
think it's a yes and no.
And are we going to charge this or not?
Yeah, we've answered those questions.
Charge this and replace the pocketbook.
We've answered your questions. The pocketbook will be on the shelf in this library.
As it
Yeah,
stands.
the
As it
pocketbook
stands.
needs updating.
No,
Instead of updating,
It's
this is the proposal.
To leave it as this is a historic document which can be referred to. There's good stuff in it, and that can be readily referred to. What needs to go on from this is
I
much broader
don't
work.
disagree with that. The pocketbook as it stands certainly needs a good refurbishment. No question about that. And there's a question of whether you have a new one and you charge for that. I understand what you're saying about the introduction and build stuff in all the time. Because ad infinitum.
But
Yes.
the existing pocketbook can be absorbed into this structure. It still remains there.
But it won't be a
It
case
doesn't
of
detract from.
no, it won't be a case of replacing the pocketbook chapter by chapter per se, because some of the original authors are no longer with us to start with, and the subject matter will be tackled in an updated form in the bolt-ons, essentially, which we feel will become chargeable. The vision is to have an introduction that is freely available and freely accessible, and then if you want to get more in depth, so you want to go more in depth into finishing, you want to go more in depth into beam house processing, whatever, you can then channel down into those modules and you can buy access. That's all to be determined, but we can't. We have to see it as a resource, but we also have to see it as an income generating resource as well. So in the way the book made us money, you know, we can do it a different way nowadays. We could perhaps charge by time, or we could perhaps charge by click, or there's different ways of accessing information nowadays that makes it globally available, and it's seated somewhere.
it's yet to be finally concluded, but that is, yeah, it is. What I'd like to do
As you
is,
said, it just continues to grow.
Yeah,
because
that's
it's
right.
perpetuity.
it'll go beyond Richard, Paul, Christine, myself, and, you know, that's what we'll do. I'd like to ask for a show of hands of general support for this concept. Bearing in mind that's the idea. It's not exactly set in concrete, as we say, but that's the general direction. Can I have a show of hands that we're doing the right thing? That's pretty good. There's a few not. That's pretty good, yeah. Good.
I think
Well, thank you.
the next thing we'll be saying is anybody who wishes to come and join us.
We do need some help.
As you know, well, let's
We need
let's
some help.
take out the bad pictures, that's the shocking.
Oh, yeah, okay, it's just
Which one's that?
Soft reflective of the dexterity. Out. Nothing to do with